Good morning, Montreal, and welcome back. We are joined here today by Kareem Boulos to talk all about those poll numbers from yesterday, with the PQ going from 32% support to 36% in the polls. First of all, can we talk about the breakdown of this support? Where is it coming from? Because in the Anglophone community, we've been hearing so much protest for this charter.
I think, as a number of people have said in the media, including Mayor Kader, this is an anti-Montreal kind of a movement, right? We talk about the charter, but a lot of this sentiment is around the island of Montreal. It's completely in the regions, it's outlying areas. Montreal is now about, call it half the province's population, slightly under. So what the PQ is banking on or gambling on is how the two votes will come together. The Montreal vote versus the non-Montreal vote, so the regional vote.
Right, and that could translate into a majority government if an election were to be held today.
Well, as people migrate out of the city and move into the suburbs, regardless of the reason, real estate prices and schools and whatever, you're getting a higher population count in the regions outside of the city, even 15, 20 minutes outside of the city. And that vote is now very significant. There is movement towards the creation of urban centers outside of the main urban center. You go out to 30 kilometers outside of Montreal and you've got these shopping centers and companies and all kinds of infrastructure that allows people to stay out in their neck of the woods while being in an urban setting, but not being anywhere near Montreal. So now that vote is significant, and the BQ is counting on the divide and conquer approach.
And it seems like these numbers are a direct result of this charter and this strategy. It seems like the PQ is sticking to their message.
Absolutely. They've been brilliant in creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. If we had had a number of complaints, if we'd had violations of a secular code, yes, I'd understand that there would be legislation needed. But essentially, I mean, this is really looking to be more of an anti-Muslim legislation, because nobody complained about the turban, nobody complained about the niqab, the kippah. I mean, nobody really had those issues in the past. And all of a sudden, when we start seeing the hijab and the niqab, people are getting a little bit uncomfortable. So you can't target one population, you target all. So
you're saying essentially that the PQ came out and said, this is a problem, we think this is a problem and we're going to solve it, and they're gaining support for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's one step on the road to sovereignty. It's the creation of the sovereign state. And what is the sovereign state going to look like? And in their mind, Quebecers, very generally, would like to see a secular state. So let's be completely secular. I mean, I think the argument itself doesn't really hold water. Nobody's going to be influenced to change religion because the person serving them at the SAQ is wearing a kippah or a hijab. I mean, I don't think that really is an issue. Right. That said, I think religion and state, church and state, have to be separate. And that's very clear. But to turn it into an entire national debate has gone beyond anybody's expectations.
Meanwhile, people have been curious, wondering, where are the Liberals on this? Where do they stand? Let's talk about how this charter debate has hurt them.
It has, because it was really a golden opportunity to take down a minority government. When this whole process began, even pre-charter. Mr. Couillard came in as leader. He was not in the National Assembly, so he had a lot of time to be on the ground, to go and solicit support and rally the troops. And he hasn't really done it. We've seen one defection on and it wasn't necessarily a Liberal issue. It was specifically a PQ issue that caused the divisiveness in the Liberal Party.
And you wonder if that was part of the plan.
I think that part of the plan is to divide and conquer all the way through. And if you can achieve it with Quebec Solidaire, if you can achieve it with the CAQ and the Liberals, you're weakening their positions. The PQs at 36% are getting very close to, yes, winning another minority, but they could win a majority if we were to call an election sometime in the spring.
Let's talk about very quickly Fatima Ouda-Pepin, the fact that she's left the Liberal Party because she does believe in having a partly banning religious symbols, because she thinks that the chador is a symbol of oppression.
Yes, the full thing, that's right.
So she's left the party. What message do you think that sends to Quebecers?
It's very significant, because she's one of the old-timers in the party. She's been there for over 20 years. She's a solid Liberal, has always stood up for Liberal values and represented her constituency very effectively. And so she's one of the credible pieces of the Liberal Party. You start to lose some of the key players on your team, it gives some of the juniors or the rookies a lot to consider. They start to consider the leadership. They start to consider their chances of winning in the next election. It starts to put a little bit of a murmur in caucus, and that's a dangerous first step.
Yeah. Kareem Boulos, always a pleasure. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.